I think one of the best ways to move or to advance after a disaster is to be resilient as a community. And community, it's not, in my mind, is not just 5 or 6 homes or 5 or 6 people, but really a group of people with a common interest or a common goal. You know, without that resilience and community, then I don't think the development can happen. Let us look at Haiti. Some years ago, they had an earthquake, and this video basically or briefly describes what went on then and what is happening now in terms of their development. We're looking at Haiti. I would think Haiti is the poster child for resilience, in my mind. So just give me a minute while I try and share the video.
At 4:53 in the afternoon on the 12th of January 2010, Haiti was hit by one of the most disastrous earthquakes in history. More than 200,000 people lost their lives and 1.5 million were displaced. The capital suffered catastrophic damage, crippling government buildings and destroying millions of homes.
Il y a pas mal de maisons qui ont été écrasées, il y a pas mal d'autres aussi qui ont été fissurées. La maison était ébranlée, était tête en bas. On était allés réfugier dans un camp. Moi-même, ma famille, j'ai passé plus de 15 mois. Ce n'était pas trop bien. Ce n'était pas une vie.
3 years later, Haitians are continuing to rebuild their lives. The residents of Morne-Hercule are recycling debris left from the earthquake to rehabilitate their neighborhood. Marie-Josette is a 35-year-old mother of 2. She has recently been trained as a brickmaker and represents the women of her community at the local neighborhood council.
On a fait ça comme un regroupement, juste pour identifier, juste pour, comment je veux dire, décerner les besoins prioritaires de la zone. Parce qu'après le séisme, on a pas mal de problèmes. Mais il y a des problèmes qui sont plus urgents que d'autres. On a réhabilité la route de Charlemagne-Péral, qu'on a été identifiée comme l'un des besoins urgents. Il y a des lampadaires. Les jeunes femmes, les filles ont subi des actes de violence dans la zone. C'est comme un parlement. On a discuté, on a parlé et on arrive à un commun accord.
With the help of the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, neighborhood councils like these empower residents to prioritize issues and get access to resources.
People are the biggest wealth to rebuild their lives. They know what to do, they know what needs to be done, and they're the ones who can put the most energy in doing it.
Since 2010, 1.2 million people have returned to their homes, and 10 million cubic meters of rubble have been removed, enabling Haiti to transition from disaster to long-term development.
You can see a lot of improvement. Not only has the debris been managed, rehabilitation of neighborhoods has started, and quite a bit of investments are now visible in those neighborhoods.
In the neighborhood of Carrefour-Feuille, high in the hills of Port-au-Prince, UNDP supported a project to reconstruct and improve roads, alleyways, drainage systems, public spaces, and build disaster-resistant homes using recycled material.
Just the sheer location of the debris is a big challenge. Haiti, Port-au-Prince is built on many mountains where no heavy machinery can come. The combination of community planning, debris removal, demolition, recycling and bringing back those recycled products into the neighborhoods at this scale is unprecedented.
The local economy has now started again. Jobs have been created in Port-au-Prince and outside. It demonstrates that when the international community and the government get together and provide the money and the investments are made, change is possible.
Il y a des lampadaires, éclairage pour la zone, la réhabilitation de la route Charlemagne-Péral, un projet d'eau, c'est-à-dire de mettre des kiosques d'eau pour les personnes les plus vulnérables de la zone. Bétonnage des sentiers, c'est-à-dire des roues qui ne sortent pas. Avant, je ne pensais pas vraiment avoir mon écule parce que la route était en terre battue, ça donne de la boue. Je pense que c'est un rêve.
Okay. Right. So there we go with Haiti. I think that. Hold on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm hearing a lot of noise. Yes. Just as with Haiti, I know the communities in the Caribbean will bounce back. We always do. And for the first few months, it's going to seem very difficult, very hard. But it's good that we stay together as a community, and I see that Rotary has started already, as Diana said, with the effort to build and develop and help the communities. And I think that is one of the quickest way that we'll come out of this, when we come together and move forward, with one focus. I don't know if Brent is still on, but if anyone has a comment on what they just saw. Dawn, your expertise, and you are in Haiti, are you, Dawn?
I'm in Cincinnati now.
Oh, Cincinnati, okay.
I left Haiti almost 2 years ago.
So you have firsthand information and knowledge of how far they have come since the earthquake. Is it as shown in the video, or was that just a propaganda for UNDP?
That was kind of it was kind of an ideal situation. And yeah, for the showcase projects, they make sure those get done well. I can't emphasize enough, I think, how much just clearing that volume of debris was necessary and helpful. It had to be done at scale. And when people start carping that, well, the international organizations didn't do anything, just getting the debris cleared was enough. What was maybe not enough, but it was a big thing in itself. That said, things still went very slowly. They kind of glossed over a lot of problems that they had because it was a propaganda piece, or at least it was a fundraising piece, what it was, which I think we know is often borderline propaganda. Yeah. They had a lot of problems with, to repair a house, you really needed to know who owned it, and because the records office was destroyed, and because there's such a history of contention about who owns what in Haiti, that became a major stumbling block. They got a fair bit done. I think UNDP in some of the suburbs wasn't cussed at as much as some others. It wasn't the most efficient either, but they at least got Haiti back to where it was before, which I think was a realistic thought of what they could do. There were some problems they couldn't solve because they were long-term questions of who owns what, and questions of the court system, and questions of people just not having an income to maintain a home in the first place, and questions of rent. Basically, there was a rent control system that made it a little hard for it to be economically viable for people to build rental properties as going concerns, which was part of why housing was such a problem in Port-au-Prince.
Yeah.
But in context, eventually things got done a lot slower than folks wanted. A lot of the shanty towns that remained had kind of been shanty towns before, or had population, and the drivers were not things that you could fix with cement and a trowel.
I have a question. When the international community decided to move in, did they consult with the local stakeholders, the people on the ground, or they just saw the devastation and gathered all the money they could and just moved in? Was there a structure as to how it would happen over time?
Overall, just the scale of the disaster and the fact that none of these organizations none of the ones that work at scale are really good at working simultaneously with individual communities because their funding sources push them to get a lot done fast at large scale. And it makes it a little difficult for them to go community by community and take the time to really work out with each group, you know, the dynamics with each group of people. I think a lot of them tried, and I think a lot of them were very top down, partly because that was the only way they could get funding, was to promise a lot of results. They're under a lot of pressure, and partly because there were a lot that came in and thought, well, we know what to do. The local folks on the ground are just traumatized, so they're just Haitians, and if they knew what to do, they'd have already gotten things not to be such a mess, quote unquote. There was a mix. There wasn't much of a local government that was already organized that they could work with because the local government structures tended to be so fractious. You'd really have to ask a Haitian who lived in Port-au-Prince, you know, some of the Petchenville guys, in order to get a better idea of how things went in Port-au-Prince.
Would you say, Dawn, though, that one thing that really did make a difference was the new roads or repaired roads that were done, because those who could, you know, those who did have access to transportation were able to get from A to B much faster and more comfortably than they could before.
But really rebuilding or building the national road network was, I think, the best thing that came out of that earthquake, because when the roads work, anyone who depends on the taps or anyone who's buying goods that have to be transported, suddenly the cost of transportation drops tremendously. And it really, I think, was a case of, we could really see the result for local businesses and local economy and just getting supplies at a reasonable rate, that when people weren't constantly dealing with trucks breaking down as badly or as expensively or as often, it really did help everybody. And it made some small businesses possible that before just were not going to be viable because of the transport issue. That at least got done well. The electrical grid, not so much, but the problem with electrical and large-scale water grids has always been not the technical part of putting it up. It's been the part of collecting the funds without shenanigans and without people just sort of hooking up illegally and saying, make me pay because I can't and you should give it to me. And a lot of people say that not because they want to be bad, it's because they've been shafted by the electric company and the water company often enough that they're like, okay, you're going to shaft me, then I have no responsibility to you either. So that's the management technical tradition, and in the fact that so much of the population doesn't have a steady income to pay utility bills off of is what was really holding back the power and water in Haiti, in my opinion.
Okay, as we talk about power and water, so friends log in. However, in for a phone number, I'm sorry to cut you.
You're cutting it, so I can't hear you. Yeah, I'd shift to.
Does anyone have a number? I don't know what the number. A phone number so that he can call in on instead of the Zoom ID.
Oh, Brent?
Brent, yeah.
No, I don't.
I'm
not
looking, but I don't.
Yeah, hold on,
What's
just a
that?
minute. I can find it.
Yeah.
Can you get him on WhatsApp?
Yes, I'm talking to him on WhatsApp as we speak. So he's asking because he came off, but he's having a lot of issues with internet connection. Sorry, as well.
No, it didn't come in on the notice.
No, I'm looking at the notice now.
No.
Like for example, I don't know, is there a phone number that he can dial into?
Who's leading the meeting?
I have Zoom as an app on my phone, so I just click Zoom.
Howard, you should have.
I'm the host. I'm the host, Diana.
Yes, well, you should have that information somewhere. If you go to meetings, maybe, and I'm not sure where to find it, to be honest.
I'm looking.
Yeah.
See, I have
Because
Zoom as a.
Oh, wait a minute. Invite. Click on invite
Okay.
down the bottom. It'll send an email, and you don't need to send it, but the details of that email will tell you what the phone number is.
All right.
Oh.
Hold on.
Thanks, Nana.
I think Brent has a Gmail account.
He has a million accounts.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
His profession.
He has every account.
Like a gazillion, million accounts. So I will just WhatsApp it to him if you guys can find it, because he had to log out. I think he's having internet connections, and he said he just wants to dial in.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can imagine everybody is on the internet because there's a limited internet. So that means that everybody is trying to access it. And it's
Did you get it, Howard? You got the number, phone number.
Not yet.
In the message, that the wording of the message that you're sending, somewhere in there is the telephone number they can dial into.
Yes, it's.
probably in the header.
I'm not getting the message.
All right, let me see. Hold on just a second.
Oh.
I'll try doing it and see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Here it is.
US number 1408 638 0968. There's actually 3 choices. I'll put them on the chat.
It's this.
Right.
I'm going to put it in the chat.
You can put it in the chat so I can copy and paste it to him, because he actually sent me a WhatsApp a while ago to the radio station.
Okay.
So if you can send it to in the chat room, and then I will copy and paste it to him, and then he can log on, hopefully. But I've been speaking to him all.
Wide in chat. So.
Yes, copy and put it in WhatsApp to him, because we've been communicating in WhatsApp. Give me 1 second, guys.
Oh, God.
Okay. I see the numbers though.
And he's online, so I'm giving it to him, and
Okay.
All right, well, while we search and wait on Brent to continue carry on the discussion, as it is now, we have communities in the Caribbean that are completely devastated to the point where it's inhabitable. I believe there is one island that is completely decimated, and it's unfathomable to me how you move on from that experience. I know talk is cheap. As a community though, what has Rotary, I guess from the Rotary International, what has Rotary decided to do within these communities?
well, what I can say, and PDG, Diana, you can elaborate, but I saw a message from our past district governor, Haresh, that we are partnering with Cable and Wireless Foundation, and they are, as a Rotary Club and as a foundation, we're contributing to these communities. PDG, Diana, I don't know if you have anything else to elaborate on where that is concerned.
Well, I think you've probably all been getting the recovery reports that are coming from Haresh. I've actually been compiling them for him, and I've got another one ready to go out tomorrow morning. But actually, we are getting some good news out of the islands now, because I know that St. Bart's, for instance, they have, as an entire community, from the government right the way through, decided that what they really need to concentrate on is putting a good face back onto St. Bart's by, by putting the buildings back together, by painting them, by basically getting ready for the one big industry that they have, which is tourism, and concentrating on the schools. They are actually at the point where they're now waiting for the forms to complete so that they can fill in for grants that they want to apply for. And by that, I mean grants from our own fundraising, which is not going to have, all the rules and regulations that the foundation has. The USVI in St. Thomas, the club presidents have had meetings. They are going to have another meeting this week, again, to home in on what they feel that as Rotarians they can concentrate on. And I think Brent's just joined us, so I'll stop talking and let him have his say.
Everyone, can you all hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Brent. We're hearing you.
Hello, Brent.
Wonderful, great. That was a chore just to get in. How's everyone doing this morning? I miss my Rotary family. I hope everyone is doing well.
We miss you too.
We miss you.
So much. So it's so good to
Thank
hear
you. Has anyone heard from Amaryllis?
We spoke about that earlier, and we're going to continue that discussion shortly.
Okay.
No,
I
but the
spoke to
answer is
Marston.
Or you can,
I'm sorry, say again?
talk about Amaryllis now. I mean, it's an open discussion about what's happening. I'm
Okay.
very, very concerned about her. I am worried about her.
Well, she has her family and support system over there, but I'm sure that it's much like what's happening on this end. All of the utilities and facilities and amenities are gone, and so I trust that she is well, but it's a matter of making communication. I saw Marston before the last storm came through, which was the one that actually hit Puerto Rico where she was. And I haven't spoken to him since. So, wait a second. Yeah, he told me he spoke to her briefly, but that was after the last storm. So I haven't spoken to him since the second. So maybe I'll find him and see what's happening. He was supposed to put me on a list with other things that were going on, but he probably is lacking patience now also. So.
Yeah.
What else have you guys heard from anyone? Anyone on St. Croix? Have you heard from Deb?
Yeah, Brent, I'm on the district recovery committee, and so we were meeting every other day. Now we're meeting twice a week. I've got a meeting right after this one. And Rupert is always on that meeting. I don't know if you're aware, but St. Croix was the sort of transshipment spot for the BVI, for St. Thomas, and for St. Martin. They are remaining in that position. The British Navy are taking a lot of the supplies that are coming in from Aquabox. They're going to be delivering them to the BVI. They can't do, no, by helicopter, I beg your pardon, by helicopter. They can't do Turks, it's too far. But it is getting through, and communication is difficult, but things are at least moving, and long queues, of course, everywhere. Still a bit of a curfew, but the curfew is now better, relaxed a little more than it was.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Thomas is concerned, I haven't heard recently from Marston. I think, Roger, you've only heard from Paul, right? Paul Demeng. So I don't know whether you want to weigh in on that.
Well, before we go any further, I don't know if you got the news, but George Blackwell passed.
Yes, we did.
Oh, wow.
We did.
Yeah, I found that out yesterday.
Yeah.
For the rest of you guys who may not have known George was one of the, I believe he was a charter member of the first club in this district, the founding club, Club St. Thomas. I think he was a member from, what would that have been, 1957?
Yeah.
A well-known
So I mean, and it was a surprise. It was a surprise because he wasn't bedridden or deathly ill, and he was having friends dinner with friends that same evening, and went home and went to bed and never woke up.
Yeah.
So it was a total shock.
Sure. I understand,
Okay.
Brent, the funeral is tomorrow, Sunday?
Yes, it is. It is.
At the synagogue.
I intend to be there. Yes, I intend to be there. That's correct.
All
So,
right.
yes, ma'am.
All right. So tell us about your experience and what you
Mine. Okay, well, before I even do that, I wanted to ask, because really and truly I'm fine, but St. Martin and Anguilla, are we able to do anything for them, Diana?
Well, again, the British Navy are helping Anguilla and the BVI and Turks, but obviously different boats. And the Dutch side of St. Martin, they are, they're not doing too badly. They've got some water supplies now back that in certain areas where the water is safe to drink, other areas where it's still brackish, but they do have filters that they're using. But it seems to be, a fairly slow recovery at the moment from what I'm hearing. Although, you can't quote me as exactly what's happening on the ground. I can only go by the news that we get in, obviously.
Maybe I can
Yes, Bonita, do you have more news on that?
Maybe I can just add this. The problem is that we are still part of the Dutch kingdom. So basically, we have to deal with the Netherlands and the bureaucracy. That's the major problem, because actually you can see a difference on the French side and the Dutch side. On the
Dutch side, yes.
They are moving really much faster. I'm not there, but of course, my brother, family, and work and everything. But on the French side, they are moving really, really much faster than on the Dutch side. It's not arranged so good.
Yes. Okay. Well, yeah. For those of you that may not know, St. Martin is half Dutch and half French. It's quite unique.
Yes.
And so that's interesting. And while you mentioned the response, Diana, I don't know if you can lend any credence to this. I didn't believe it when I heard it, but I heard that the British Royal Navy was not helping Anguilla because they're officially now independent. I didn't believe that, but
no, that's not true. That's not true.
Right.
On either case, I can't speak for whether they're helping them. I can't speak for the fact they're not independent.
No, they are helping them, Grant. They are helping them a lot.
Yeah, let me add this, because the problem with Anguilla is the same thing, like more or less like St. Martin. No, St. Martin is a different situation. But on the French side, they are directly European citizens. So they're getting European fundings. And in Anguilla, actually their status is so different that they are linked to the British that are helping. And well, they are helping. And they have no access directly to the European Union. So it's more, problematic issues that have the islands that are not moving based on the history.
Wow.
So what is the government though in St. Martin? Do you know what progress they're trying to make with the Dutch government? Do you have any sense of what's happening there?
It is very ticklish, because there's not such a good relationship right now between the governments. And if you had heard the interviews, the people are screaming that please deal with us directly, because we are in need of help, and leave the politics out. And therefore, this is really political issues that are playing a major role, which is of course very ridiculous. But therefore, the help and everything is not coming. If you know how much in Holland, just the people found it like nearly 20 million just from people that just deposit money on the account. And the Dutch government, they promised that they have so much money for us, but that's fine and well. The money is there, but it's not, the trust is not there with the government. So they are saying the government is not going to get a cent to refund it. If we're going to do this, we're going to come there directly and deal with it. And our government is like, hey, we have an independent status within the kingdom. So basically, you cannot just come and do what you have to do. You have to come through us. It's actually a mess. So they are, on speaking terms. So hopefully there's a solution, because next week, the Minister of Interior Affairs, which is a minister from Holland, but is also our minister, because his Interior Affairs is the minister for Holland, for Curaçao, for Sint Maarten, and the other islands. So hopefully, I keep my fingers crossed, next week, something major can be done. Because I can also go a little bit back. I was there with Hurricane Louis, and back then, I was also working with the government of Tallahassee. We have a sister city agreement. So everybody was really ready. A lot of planes were ready to come and help us. But the government just say in Holland, hey, no, this is not your territory. So they couldn't help us. The Americans, they were just waved away by the Dutch. And the Dutch, had the major saying. So it's difficult. And then a lot of building was done, which I also looked at the Haitian situation. And, you have to think ahead, because you're going to build again. I mean, we had 95. In Haiti, there was all these things. Look at Puerto Rico. Basically, if we got help, or if we have to rebuild the community, you have to do it a certain way, that we will not sit here and just think, where is Amarellis? We cannot reach her. Where is my brother? I cannot reach him. There should be a way that connection is so important and so vital. So wherever the help comes from, we have to think that connection, this is for me the main thing, because I was really sitting and crying, because I know my brother is okay, but I can't reach him. The same thing, hey, I miss Amarellis here in the meeting. I mean, she's always so vocal, so when we rebuild, let's start on the connections first. And yeah, because money is there, but yeah, if you don't use it wise, what can we do?
All right, I believe Lou had something to say, and then Leslie and Dawn. So Lou? No?
I just wanted to give a bit of update on what I know is going on in Anguilla, and basically it's quite positive news. There was an awful lot of damage, and the electric was just gone, but they're up to 9% recovery now with putting poles back and whatnot. Last weekend they had a concentrated effort on clearing away debris, and as Dawn had said with Haiti, if you can clear the path and get rid of the crap, then just even the mental support kick that would give would be huge. In Anguilla too, Flow and Digicel have been very, very supportive, and have charging stations for individuals to keep their electronics going and connections going. And in these stations too, they've had food and water provided, like hot soup and water. It's my understanding that the schools are going to reopen next week, and modified versions of it, but they do hope to get the kids back in school. And they have a new thought that they're going to promote, and they're calling it voluntourism. So they want people back, and the big problem with Anguilla is access. We have to fly to St. Martin. Already we're scrambling and making plans to, no, we can't do St. Martin, so we go in through Antigua. And that's fine, but that makes an extra long day and possibly a stay over in Antigua as well. But one way or another, we do plan on getting there. And it's just the power of the people. Yes, it'll happen. And they are, one of the reasons I guess Anguilla wasn't maybe hit as badly is after Hurricane Lewis, they were really flattened like Dominica. And when they did rebuild, they built concrete, they built hurricane strength, by and large. There's still wooden homes that were gone, and what they're doing there now is they're going through neighborhoods and doing individual assessment needs. So they have documentation on who lives where and who needs what. So they're coming together very positively, I think.
Okay, thanks, Lou. Leslie?
Right. So I just wanted Brent to give us a 10-minute briefing on what he has, because we're at 9.
Right. Okay. Okay. Let me preface it by two questions. One, that foundation, that agreement rather, and this is probably to Diana, that has been formed between Rotary and Cable and Wireless Foundation. Is that going to be able to help in Anguilla and St. Martin, according to, and in the BVI, because that's where Cable and Wireless is, correct?
Yes, it will be. I mean, it's obviously going to have to be a discussion between Cable and Wireless and our recovery committee as to, you know, how we mutually agree to use the funds. But yes, you know, the intention would not be to restrict. And we have, I think we're up to about 35,000 now in our fundraising with it, you know, that it's specifically for District 7020 that we have complete control of. And so, you know, obviously all the islands will be asked and are being asked to send in their needs and what they feel they want to do, and then we can try and maximize those funds.
That's wonderful.
Brent, just a minute. Dawn had a question on the chat here. How many of the affected islands had cell phones, and were those helpful? Did people use them to get info?
Well, I can tell you on
I shouldn't have typed cell, I should type satellite.
Yeah, I just answered you, Dawn, and that no, they're not. We stopped that service. It was horrendously expensive, and we stopped it. But I think there is talk about whether we should reinstate it.
Right. And as on that same note, when we do a postmortem of this, Diana, I'd like to add in my 2 cents in terms of what could probably be done, you know, next time in terms of communications, because we have a situation here now where you have total communication loss. So with that said, we should have a procedure in place where in the event of a catastrophic situation on any respective district territory, that there is a formal process, you know, even if it's slow, that can be taken to account for everyone. And, you know, that's one of the things, because all cell phone service and stuff here is unreliable. Perhaps I can segue into, you know, what's happening on this end. The 3 main islands, St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix, were hit very hard, as you all know. Irma hit the BVI, St. John, and St. Thomas, and then Maria caught St. Croix and Puerto Rico. So we all got hit with at least with a category 5. Some say 6, but you know, no such thing. Anyway, long and short is the government given an of the damages to utilities, which points to, and he estimated that on St. Thomas, 90% of the utility poles were down. On St. John, the estimate is about 60%. And on St. Croix, the estimate is 40%. And based on what I've heard from people from each of those islands, that's probably in line with what the official assessment is going to be. So it just gives you an idea of the scope of damage across each island. With that said, all of the cell phone towers were damaged. Some were wiped out entirely. Cell phone service was existed in some pockets, but certainly wherever you were accustomed to service before, it wouldn't work anymore. You'd have to go somewhere and stick your hand in the air and hold your foot out or something, perhaps get a bare signal. And then with that said, even to make voice calls, that's a problem, because voice calls require a higher priority. And, you know, the best thing to contact people with is still data, text, or send an email, or, you know, WhatsApp, and just wait. You know, in fact, I would recommend when you send something, make sure you put the date stamp, the time and the date, so that people can know when it was actually sent, because you don't know when someone else is going to get a chance to, one, charge their phones, or two, get into an area of good reception. In comparison to, let me bring it home now. In my experience, I've been through 2 of these major storms before. So thankfully, I was very prepared. I had a stockpile of dry goods and different stuff that could take me probably for months, as well as everyone else. And, you know, water, storage, and all of that. So I'm fine. I sustained some damage. You know, it was cosmetic, really. You know, all of my fruit trees are gone. The patio balconies are gone. I consider that cosmetic because it didn't really, I didn't have any damage to the infrastructure of my home. The worst that I had was in the second storm, which was a huge water event. I lost my meter base. You know, some flood waters came from across the street, focus on that. Next thing I found, it sunk down. You know, I have to replace that. But that's minor, because when I look across, you know, my yard, I look down, I see the roof's missing, or you know, partially damaged, and the rain is constant. And so we had a water event with Maria, and then we had heavy rains after that. So, you know, every time this happens, and I remember from having lost my house in Maryland, it's like hitting the reset button. You know, it's as though the storm is happening all over again, and you're pushing water, and you're trying to find safe places to store whatever you have left. And, you know, so it's last night there was, in fact, we're under flood watch right now because it started from last night, and you know, the ground is already super saturated. So I feel for everyone that has damage. Now, we are in a much better position than every other location, probably even in a better situation than Puerto Rico, because the federal help that poured out to the Virgin Islands from the time the first storm came was unmatched. I didn't see anything like that with any of the previous storms. The estimate now is that they have probably like 10,000 FEMA personnel on the ground here in the Virgin Islands. And in terms of military, they have far more than that. They have, they started using St. Croix, as you know, as the transshipment point. And then when St. Croix got hit, that was a problem. And so Puerto Rico at that time was a transshipment point for the Virgin Islands, you know, staging things from the state side to Puerto Rico and then into St. Croix. But now that both St. Croix and Puerto Rico got hit, things are coming directly into St. Thomas. The governor strongly used Puerto Rico as a transshipment point, and he didn't even want the supplies for the Virgin Islands bundled with Puerto Rico, because we tend to get a fraction of directly into St. Thomas and directly into St. Croix, and with chopper, you know, with flying and barging stuff over to St. John. And so again, the military took over both airports in St. Thomas and St. Croix, and they just St. Thomas is to commercial aviation. So that's beginning again. Flights are coming in, and more leaving than coming, but that's fine. The rebuild started. There are several hundred people here already.
You're breaking down, Brent.
I'm sorry, say again?
You're breaking down.
Okay. Can you hear me can you hear me better now?
That's better, yes.
I'm holding my hand up in the air.
Okay.
No. Okay. So yes, so I was saying the military took over the airports and they're flying everything in and using each island airport as the staging point for military operations. They took over a port of the university and set up some extensive facilities. It looked like an army camp, and they're about to take over the fitness center, and they'll use that. The military would use that as their cruise. And there's one today. Whoever has needs and feels people just can't hang. You know, they're able to put. And
Brent, you're breaking up. So
Your hotspot's going cold, Brent. So
Can I just ask Brent a question? Brent, if you're, no, I don't know if he's still there. Are you available? Do you have email or anything, any other method of contact?
my email works. It's just a matter.
Okay. Okay. I'll try your email because some of what you're saying would be very useful information, I think. So I will try your email.
Let me step outside and perhaps I might get a better reception here out there. How are you doing, David?
Well,
let me step outside.
Secretary, you have
Okay.
Dennis,
Can you guys hear me any better now?
Yes. Hold on. Brent, hold on. Dennis had something to add.
Okay.
Brent, there are hotspots in the island. I speak with Patsy up by Fairchild Park every night for even as long as an hour at a time, and I have no problem with the connections at all. You know, so.
Okay. Well, thank you. There's a few hotspots that have been set up by Innovative. One is by Tutor Park Mall, one is by Haven Site, and then the other somewhere else. And long and the short is that they're setting up more hotspots, but the issue oftentimes is the backhaul. You know, they have to do pretty much all wireless backhauls because whatever fiber wasn't buried is now laying on the ground, and so it's problematic from that standpoint. But it's coming up slowly. I have access to some kind of data access at least once a day. So at a very worst case scenario, I will receive emails at least once a day. You know, I have to prioritize, you know, which one I'm going to respond to because I have to kind of pull to the side of the road or find some place. But it's getting better. And just try and contact me. I'll make an effort to get somewhere and download my emails and my WhatsApp messages and my text every day. But there's a lot of progress on the ground here. Yes, Diana, I'm sure that we can zero in on some particular needs that aren't being met by the government. So I'd be glad to help on that. So just contact me. And you guys, I'm going to sit at some point and really give you the story from A to Z. But it's helter-skelter now, as you can see, just to try and communicate.
Yeah.
Leslie has her hand up. Go ahead, Leslie.
I just want to congratulate both Howard and Brent for the support, because I know what our countries are going through, and even Brent, what you're personally going through, what I am personally going through. We've been on keeping the club alive, and that was all to say.
Okay, I appreciate that. What little I heard, it was kind of cutting in and out. But yeah, there's lots of Rotarians on the ground doing what they can, even though we may not be fully organized. The morning of the storm, it was raining all day long. But as soon as the winds abated enough for my son and I to go out, I put on my Rotary T-shirt and packed my knapsack full of goods and went down the hill to go look for his grandmother. So it was like a hike of about 3 miles. But anyway, when we got there, her place was damaged, but she was well. But there were people in the area that had gotten blasted, so we gave out a knapsack full of food and then went back up the hill. And that's how the first day went, when he couldn't drive anywhere. And Rotarians out all over. They had the distribution centers and stuff like that. The issue is we would like to organize it better.
Pictures of you doing stuff like that so we can post it, because we have
it ain't gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. I have a million pictures of damage and stuff
on,
but
right? And there are things that we need to do.
Okay.
So whatever anybody is doing, I am begging you, because I wear my Rotary pins. I will share something.
Yeah, every day. That's an everyday thing.
We're all starting to break.
Yes.
Yeah, my reception is going in and out. I apologize. I'm going to mute and
No
just
apologies
listen because I'm
necessary.
Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
Leslie, go ahead. Yes.
Right. Okay. I went to lunch with a mentor of mine who was my ex-boss, and he was just wonderful to me in the bank. I had on Rotary earrings. I had on my Rotary chain. I had on my Rotary pin. And he's a Rotarian, and he found it so amazing. And I just want to encourage us, because even when I was traveling, I'm in Fort Lauderdale right now. I'm not in Jamaica. Let us spread Rotary because of what's happening in our communities, right? People will ask. Every time I wear a Rotary pin or even my Rotary earrings, Paul, thank you so much. They ask questions, right? So let us spread the word so that we can help our communities to get back to where they were before. Because you don't know who you're going to book up on a plane. You don't know who you're going to book up in the supermarket. You don't know. But I am totally Rotarian every time I go out in public. And I'm encouraging all of us to do that. I have every jewelry you can think of except a watch in Rotary. Right? So let's just encourage each other and encourage other persons, because people will ask me all the time about Rotary. And let us have an elevator conversation. 10 seconds. What is Rotary and what does it mean to you? Especially during this time. Because you don't know who you're going to sit beside in a airplane who can contribute, I don't know, $10,000 US to something. So I'm encouraging all of us, please wear our Rotary pins. It makes a difference. And I'm speaking from a personal perspective. It makes a huge difference. All right, Sarge. Okay, we're 2 minutes over. That was my 2 cents.
Good.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Well, let us continue with the community spirit, moving out into the communities, each one helping the other in whatever way possible. And at this point, we'd like to close with the 4-way test. Paul, would you mind closing for us?
Sure. This is the test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Truth.
And is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Fourth, will it be beneficial to all?
Will it be
beneficial to all concerned?
And it's always fun.
It will be fun.
It will be fun.
Rotary around the world.
And don't wear socks.
Please wear it. Makes difference. It makes that's
All right, have a great day, you all.
All right.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, bye.